bully is going to get me. And the dad happens to be a champion boxer or wrestler or something. And would a dad delight in helping his son? Absolutely. He's going to step in and say, bully, this was, you picked a fight with the wrong person. And he's going to show himself powerful on the behalf of his son to protect him and not allow a threat to hurt his child. But Asa, in earlier days, did that very thing. The Ethiopians had attacked Judah. He was outnumbered. You saw the number of chariots and horsemen and soldiers he had, 1,000 soldiers and 300 chariots. That was a huge force, and Asa knew he could not fight against it, so he cried out to God in desperation. And the Bible tells us in 2 Chronicles 14, in verse 12, the Lord smote the Ethiopians before Asa and before Judah, and the Ethiopians fled. God won an amazing victory for King Asa and the people, a lot like David. Remember when David fought Goliath? David didn't strut out there and say, hey, I'm pretty good with this sling, and I've really been practicing Goliath. You watch out. You're messing with the wrong guy. That's not what he said, did he? David came out and said, who are you to mock the living God, the creator of heaven and earth, the God of Israel? How dare you? And he said, I come to you not in my power, but in the name of the Lord. In God's strength will you be subdued. And that's what happened. We all know how David defeated Goliath that day. And many of us have Goliaths in our life today. Again, it may be a health report. It could be a statement from the person that does your taxes that says, there's no way you can get out of this. You cannot squirm out of this one. And that is the moment. Or if it, again, a relationship issue, a personal issue at work, you can simply call out to God and say, I need thee. We sing a great old song in the hymn book, I need thee every hour, I need thee. There's no time when you can say, this one, God, I've got. I can handle this one. The child that would say to his dad, Dad, I'll take care of this bully. I don't need your help this time. That's the one time he's going to regret it. He's going to pay a price. So King Asa flew properly. He knew what to do. He called out to God, and he had the record, the memory bank that God took care of me. Now let's go back to 2 Chronicles 16 when the prophet comes and he reminds them in verse 8, were not the Ethiopians and the Lubims a huge host? Yet the Lord delivered them into thy hand. You called out to God. What do you think that Asa felt like at that moment when Asa heard, remember that battle a while back when you called out to God and you were outnumbered and God delivered you? Oh, yeah. But this time he didn't do that. This time he made a pact and got money out of the bank, out of the treasury, and he tried to scheme and reason in his own human wisdom a way out of this. And I do not stand here today saying I have completely understand this. I'm fascinated by the fact that Asa knew right, had experience and a record of God delivering him, and then he still didn't choose the Lord the next time. That troubles me. I don't know if it troubles you. It troubles me because I don't want to fall into that trap of trusting the Lord, then trusting Jeff. See, that's trouble. And I believe that's why this record is here for us to not do that. I don't know if we have any pilots here this morning, but seeing those photos of those flights into the ground, into the terrain, I hope that they're reminders of, hey, I got to follow the book. When that altimeter alarm goes off, or when I'm close to, I've got to do right. Remember that phrase from the crash report? Failure to make necessary course corrections. And not just one, several are usually involved in a crash. And for you and I, if we crash spiritually, We do not lose our salvation. That can never be taken from us. But if we crash spiritually, as in those in Corinthians and other places in the New Testament, God will allow us to suffer the deeds of our actions. The sowing and reaping principle will not be suspended. You will pay a price. Now, what did Asa pay? What was the price? From herein, thou shalt have wars. You're going to have perpetual conflict, and you were going to get to defeat your main enemy, but that's not happening because you made an alliance with him. Now, I think it's very telling, Asa's response to the news that the prophet brought him. Let's look at it in verse 10 in closing. Then Asa was wroth with the seer, and put him in a prison house, for he was in a rage with him because of this thing, and Asa oppressed some of the people the same time. Do you see that? The king, instead of saying, I've done wrong. Oh, yeah, I remember the Ethiopians. How foolish of me to make this pact, and thank you for coming and reminding me. Instead of that, he got angry with him and throws the prophet who's coming to warn him, throws him in jail. Now, how do you and I do that today? Could we find someone wanting to encourage us to live the Christian life and walk with him, and we push it away? We say, oh, you don't know what you're saying? Or we might say, who are you to judge me? How dare you? I know things wrong with your life, and then we dismiss their counsel that way. Could it even be like the click of a radio when you don't like what the radio preacher is saying because it's stepping on your toes, or the TV preacher, or our ladies just had their Beth Moore Bible study for 12 weeks, and maybe just saying, well, she's talking about something I don't want to listen to. You shut it out. That's basically what Asa did. That's basically what every pilot who's crashed his plane into the ground, thinking he was level and good, he ignores the warnings that the instrument panel is trying to give him. Now, in one of the saddest statements in the entire Bible, verse 12, and Asa in the 39th year of his reign was diseased in his feet, until his disease was exceeding great. Yet in his disease he sought not the Lord, but the physicians. Is that not a sad culmination? Here he'd seen God do great things, supernatural experience in his past, but in his latter days, he's farther from God than he ever was. And even with a personal illness that was consuming his very life, he still doesn't seek the Lord. He still seeks just the physicians. He's going to figure this out. He's going to scheme. He's going to go see one more, some new treatment, and he's going to fix it rather than calling upon the great physician, the one who created him and can heal him. And I think it's a warning to each of us to make those necessary course corrections. Now earlier, and Kelly did not know this, we sang the song, The Solid Rock. I was going to reference that song, and it's amazing how that happens, because when I was out at Goody's this morning, Kelly, you know what our first song was? Solid Rock. Now that is just, to me, that is beyond coincidence. I was going to make reference to it, happened to be at some little country chapel an hour away from here, and then again here. But in the song, The Solid Rock, the line of the lyric says, I dare not trust, what? The sweetest frame, but wholly lean on Jesus' name. And when you learn some hymnal history and the writer's background, the writer of that hymn was describing from a carpenter's view, from a builder's view, that no matter how how good something looks, and it's engineered, and like when you frame a house, you use a level, you use a plumb line years ago. Today they've got laser ones, but the song is saying no matter how good it looks in